Welcome to Discovering. Cross-country skiing is a great way to stay active during the UP winter, and having the right equipment makes it much more enjoyable.
Nordic skiing is probably the most economical winter outdoor activity, and it has changed a bunch in the last few years.
That's all tonight, so sit back and relax. It's Monday night, and time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone, forests thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak, surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields, call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill, the eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
We've all heard the saying, a watched pot never boils. I'm pretty sure staying cooped up indoors all winter, waiting for spring to get here, pretty much has the same effect. Whether it's for exercise or beating the cabin fever bug, there are plenty of ways to get out and enjoy the wonders of winter here in the UP. One of my favorites is cross-country skiing. The peacefulness of quietly gliding through the woods on a pair of cross-country skis is hard to beat. I stopped in for a visit with my friends at Mr. Bike Ski and Fitness in Escanaba to get the scoop on the latest equipment.
Nordic skiing is probably the most economical winter outdoor activity, arguably, and it has changed a bunch in the last few years. So the equipment's gotten less expensive, it's easier to ski on, and makes for a much more enjoyable day. So I'm going to take you through kind of the ABCs of the new Nordic equipment and talk to you about local trail options and why it's a great family activity to do. So this is considered the Escanaba West trail system. Currently is basically a cross-country ski snowshoe trail. It will be expanded into mountain bike trails through the Delta County Non-Motorized Trail Group. Traditionally, this trail was known as the North 30th Trail, with the entrance just north of Menards a half a mile. The other entrance that was later developed was just west of the stoplight by Walgreens near the Comfort Suites. You currently can still access the trail either off the North 30th or off the Comfort Suites area in the winter. In the summer though, the only place that you can get back to ride these trails is you have to go up back behind what we would consider the Rod and Gun Club and park here. This is where we currently are. This will allow you to mountain bike these trails without having to go through the swamp to get there. This is all a big watershed, and it's quite a feat to get through there in the summer on a bike. So this is considered the new parking area, the new nucleus where everything starts from, and this will be where the trails are expanded from in the future. So originally, back in our parents' era, cross-country skis were sized, if you could reach the top of the ski, that was the right size. By today's standards, this height is actually my height ski. So what's happened is the skis have gotten shorter. They've produced a base material that is much faster, so they still glide like the longer skis. And they've widened them out a little bit, so they're a little more stable underfoot. So those three things make getting back on cross-country skis, if maybe you haven't done it in many years, a real joy, because it's very forgiving and very simple, and they work correctly. Another thing we'll talk about is the base material on the skis. This is called or considered a waxless ski. Has the grippy sections in the middle and a smooth section on the tip and the tail. We still do want to apply a glide wax or a hot wax to the tip and the tail to produce a smooth glide, but we don't ever have to put anything in the middle. This pattern is very aggressive. You can climb hills with this pattern without putting any kind of additive to it at all. So it makes it real simple. You get to the trail, you click in your skis and you go. You don't have to mess with it first or worry about the different temperatures of the snow for your recreational experience. So there's basically three categories of skis. One would be considered a sports ski. I would consider this like a road bike for the woods. It's fast, it's light, it likes to be skied aggressively, and the payback is just like your road bike. All the energy you put into it, it gives back to you. So your grip is great, your glide is far. The only maybe detractor from that experience is it's slightly narrow. It is sized a little longer than the ski we spoke about, but there is a trade-off. It's light and fast. So this would be considered a sport ski. Now this ski may almost look like a downhill ski to many of you, and it almost is. It's considered a backcountry ski. It still uses a similar binding to the rest of the cross-country ski equipment, but it's significantly wider. It actually has metal edges built into it, like a downhill ski. It is a solid wood core inside, so it's tough as nails. And this is for the person at the farm, at camp, crossing the river, going through the bush, dragging out traps, and they need something that will help them float but is more efficient and faster than a snowshoe. So this is considered a backcountry ski. Real big category, growing fast. A lot of people want to just do their own thing out in the woods and don't have to worry about a groomed trail, and that's what this is for. It might cost you another $100 more than a regular ski, but it certainly gives you the ability to explore the UP. This is a skate ski. Skate ski is exactly what it is. You skate on it instead of ski on it. So a traditional ski would be considered diagonal, where your skis are going fore and aft using a grip pattern on the bottom to propel you. This ski has no grip pattern in the center, but has a protruded edge which grips in the snow, and as you take your skate strokes, it propels you forward. It is arguably twice as fast as diagonal skiing and arguably twice as much work. It's not for the faint-hearted, but it is a great aerobic activity, especially for somebody that's an aspiring athlete or somebody that's already in good shape. It's kind of exhilarating. You do need a separate course for it, though. It has to be a skate course, and it looks like a big, wide, groomed highway through the woods. It's a beautiful experience. It makes up maybe arguably only 10 or 15% of our business. So the pole you might be used to has changed a bunch too, both in size and style and material. The original poles, most were bamboo or fiberglass. Now they're either aluminum alloy or carbon fiber. A couple things that have changed. A traditional strap, which looks like this, used to be worn like this. Somebody much smarter than me figured out that if you put your hand up through it and let the strap support you, you have much more pressure to the tip of the pole, which will propel you forward further. The more modern poles actually have a palm holding wrap that you wear under or over your glove, whatever you prefer. And that gives you full support up on this handle and allows you to both guide this way but have full support this way for your down pressure. It requires very little strength in the hand to keep your hand in place. Therefore, after 5 miles, your hands aren't fatigued and you can still keep going. Traditionally, a pole has been sized to just fit under your armpit. That has kind of been the staple for 30 years, I would say. Over the last few years, people have been buying poles arguably 5 or 10 centimeters longer, now more to the upper part of the shoulder. And what they're finding is when they are diagonal skiing, and they are using the pole to propel themselves, they have an extra little pump at the end of that because of that extra length, which increases their glide experience. So if you are buying new equipment, you might want to look at bumping up the pole size from what you're used to. And like we had talked previously, the ski sizes have also changed. They've got generally shorter and slightly wider. So you're in for a whole new experience with this equipment. Everyone remembers this boot system. This boot system was active in the cross-country ski industry for arguably almost 40 years, and it was considered a 75 millimeter, which is the width of the toe box. You clamped it in, and your foot was forced to bend at the ball of the foot. This system, believe it or not, still exists, but in very few numbers. It was very painful to ski on after several miles, and many of the boots just broke off on this duckbill. The new system is much simpler. You simply walk up to the binding, step in, and the flex is built into the binding, not so much into the toe box of the boot. So now you're pivoting on a very specific point, which creates a great amount of pressure directly under that pivot, which allows the grip section of that ski to engage the snow much better than it used to with the old equipment. The other thing that has changed is the boots have gotten significantly taller, and most have this upper heel wrap, so you're not near as likely laterally to roll on the ski. It works really good. It's kind of benign. You can put your foot in there and really not think about it. It just controls the ski exactly how you would hope it would. So depending on the snow conditions, they can vary your experience out here dramatically. If the snow is crystallized over because of a warm day yesterday and it's iced over, it can be a little tough to get going and to get that grip section in the bottom of the ski to engage. But once the snow warms up or you break through, it really does come to life and work well. The pattern is alternating left and right hands and left and right feet, compressing the grip section into the snow and using that and the opposite pole to propel you further down the trail. So this is considered grip and glide, alternating hands and feet. At first it's a little clumsy, but I would say after about a half a mile, if you've never done it before, it all kinds of comes together real quickly, and you kind of get into what I would say is the flow of it. Then you travel efficiently and you're not working as hard. If you get to an area of the trail that has a decline to it, granted, there is a fixed set of tracks, so you kind of are at the mercy of those tracks, but all the modern skis now have some form of side cut to them, which means they're slightly narrower in the center than they are at the tips and the tails. So if you do lean those skis on their edge, they will turn the direction you lean them, kind of like a downhill ski, but not quite as effective. But you do have some control other than just the tracks in front of you. Another thing, if you are on a decline, slope, especially a bigger one, you want to bend the knees and be forward on the skis, because all too often people loop backwards and then usually their buddies run over them from behind. When you get to an incline, if the grip section of the ski is not adhering enough to propel you up, there's really a couple options. Yeah, you could take your skis off and just walk up it and then reclip in, or you could do kind of a herringbone style walk up the hill. And that will get you up there safely without sliding backwards. So a ski that looks like this on the bottom has always be considered a waxless ski. It really should be categorized as a semi-waxless ski, which means, in my opinion, obviously because of the grip section, you don't have to put anything on there to aid your experience. But the tip and the tail, which are already smooth, should be waxed either with a hot wax or with some type of a liquid wax, because that's the most important part of your experience. If you're not gliding out there on the trail, you're really not having fun, and you might as well be on snowshoes. A lot of people over the years have bought skis with this grip section in the center and have never done anything to the tips and the tails. I'm going to show you a couple real easy ways to do it, and it'll double your experience out there. It's a deal breaker. So it's actually quite simple even to do this at home. Now any ski store will do this for about 15 bucks, but you can do it at home with a block of ski wax, which is a universal temperature, basically good in everything but the extremes. Very cold negatives or very warm and sloppy positives in the temperature. You take the bar of wax and you cran it on, and it will only take a certain amount of wax, because you can't keep putting wax over wax. So you'll know when you've kind of saturated the material. Then you'll take your iron at a moderate temperature and you will just simply start to melt that wax in. Now this iron is not hot, so you won't be able to see it, but it will glaze over. And you're just very, very simply working back and forth. And you're gonna see the wax just like fill in all the pores. You're only doing it for a moment or two, literally less than 60 seconds. You'll allow the ski to cool or to dry for, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes. Then you're going to take something with a hard edge, like a plastic scraper or something like that, and you're really actually going to try to remove as much wax off of here as you can by scraping it, because all you really want is the wax embedded in the pores of this ski base. You don't want clumpy wax on there. That's going to restrict your glide. So after you scrape it, then you take some type of material to buff it. A cork works best, but you could use a piece of newspaper or whatever, just to put that final polish on there. That is considered a hot wax. That wax will last maybe a half a dozen times on the trail, and it reduces static and it really increases your glide. Relatively simple. You could have your local shop do it once a year too for you. This is even easier than the hot wax. It doesn't last quite as long, but works almost as well. It's a universal temperature glide wax in a liquid form. Now you can use this on the smooth area of a cross-country ski, a downhill ski, or a snowboard. The advantage is it goes on in about 2 minutes, dries really quick, and you're on the hill or on the trail. The disadvantage is after 3, 4, 5 miles, you probably have to reapply it because it really doesn't adhere to the ski quite as well as a hot wax. So this type uses a sponge applicator. You simply shake it. You will see it glaze over, and believe it or not, that is it. In a couple minutes, that's going to dry. It's going to reduce static and friction, and I would say it's going to make your ski arguably 25% quicker or glide farther than it used to by that simple procedure. A can of this can be gotten at your local ski shop as well. Might be 10 or 15 bucks, but you probably got 20 applications out of this. Works great on all ski equipment. I'm going to just share with you something that we've been using at this store for over 30 years, and at the store I worked at when I was 10 and 12 years old, back then we used to do it. And when you have a ski with this grip section, there's occasions that snow wants to clump up in there. It adheres to it because you're not putting any wax in there. What we have always done, and what we do on all of our rental equipment, is once or twice a season we take Pledge, the type you use on your household furniture, and you just spray a light mist through here with the Pledge. And Pledge again reduces static, and static is why that stuff wants to stick on there. We also will flip it over and we will Pledge the binding system, which keeps the binding from icing up and lubricates the step-in mechanism so you're in and out like that. It's a quick, easy tip, works great, and you'll wonder why it took you so long to do it.
The condition of our deer herd here in the Upper Peninsula is influenced by a variety of factors, including weather, habitat, and of course, predators. The Predator Prey Project, a joint effort by Mississippi State University and the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, is now in its 10th year. Phase 1 of the project began back in 2009 and was centered on an area within Deer Management Unit 055 in Menominee County. This study area was selected because of its relatively low snowfall and low winter severity factors. Phase 2 of the project took place in Deer Management Unit 036 in Iron County, considered to be in the mid-snowfall range. In 2017, the project moved into Phase 3 and centered on DMU 031 in Baraga, Houghton, and Ontonagon counties, considered to be in the high snowfall range. I talked with MSU professor Jerry Ballant about where they are now in the project timeline.
The Michigan Predator Prey Project is divided into 3 phases representing low, mid, and high snowfall zones. Right now we're beginning the 2nd year of the 3rd phase in the high snowfall zone. Basically today we were visiting a black bear that had previously been collared, and she was, we were expecting her to have cubs, but in fact this year she actually didn't. She was on her own, and she was more or less in an open den but under a blowdown, but pretty exposed. And you'll find that sometimes there's a lot of variability in where black bears den. Those females that do have cubs tend to be in a little more sheltered den than what you saw today. But when the females do not have cubs, or if you're a male, that's not uncommon. The bear that we did today, we basically removed the old collar and replaced it with a new collar just to make sure that the collar has enough life for the duration of the study. And also during that time, since we have the opportunity at the den, we'll assess the condition of the bear. We'll take various morphometric measurements. We'll take samples like blood samples or hair samples. And we try to keep quiet just to minimize disturbance to the bear and move through the procedures as rapidly as we can, and then put her back in the den as close as we can to how she was when we found her, and then just exit the site and let her finish out her hibernation for the winter. We'll put a little balsam boughs or something like that over the entrance of the den, just to basically when the next snows come, it'll form a nice covering over that den and keep her further sheltered. And where we're at right now is the overall study is to address the effects of winter weather, aspects of habitat, and predators on white-tailed deer survival, particularly fawn survival. One of the predators and potential predators of white-tailed deer fawns, at least early in life, up to 3 or 4 weeks, is the black bear. We capture the bears each summer in culvert traps, sometimes foot snares, and then visit the dens in the winter. And at that time, like you saw today, we attach radio collars to them, and the idea is to have a sample of black bears with radio collars so that when they emerge from the dens, we can immediately monitor their movements. And ultimately, in late May or early June, during fawn parturition, when the fawns are born, we'll particularly monitor their movements in relation to fawn white-tailed deer. And where we're at right now is the beginning of the second year of phase 3, so we have all of this year, all of 2019, with some follow-up monitoring through late May or early June of 2020, and that would complete the field portion of phase 3 high snowfall zone of the Michigan Predator Prey Study.
Couple reminders, Camp Josh is hosting its annual fundraiser dinner banquet and gun raffle on March 3rd at the Kentika in White Pine. They'll be raffling off 15 guns this year along with numerous outdoor items. To make reservations for the banquet, call the Kentika. Also on March 3rd, it's the 35th annual Lake Gogebic Ice Fishing Derby with over $3,500 in prizes. To find out more, visit gogebiklodge.com. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week right here on Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.